Hey, what is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe saying you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and another first for the Dr. Vibe show. I was in a Dr. Vibe after show, which people are coming to know are quite synonymous now, and it got so intense that I said, okay, let's start another Blab. So we've got a streaming voice, Ahmed Hazel, and Digital Biz Dude on tonight. They were on fire at the after show. Said, okay, this stuff is so good, we got to get some recording stuff in. So, gentlemen, thank you so much. Tony, why did you want to name this conversation Willie Lynch is Alive and Well?
Well, the reason why I wanted to name it this is because I think that we are still dealing with the aftermath of the letter. And there's been some discussion on whether or not the letter is a legitimate writing. And I would argue that it doesn't matter whether or not the letter is actually a written letter or document. The mindset of what is behind the letter, the strategies of the letter are in place, are still in place, and they are being implemented without the originator of the mindset doing a single thing.
Who wants to carry on that? There's a lot of thinking going on. Ahmed, go ahead. There's deep thought going on. What's up?
Yeah, when Father Tony speaks, I gotta take a step back for a second and make sure my I'm processing it the right way. Honor and respect him as well. But I think that the thinking is definitely alive and well. It's an institution that has been put in place. And with that institution, it has its own culture, its own thought process, and its institutions are designed to last a very, very long time. And like he said, whether the controversy behind the letters, whether it was authentic or not, I think the principles of the letter are clearly evident. And, how we're against each other constantly, how we've been called crabs in a barrel, how we look to suppress each other, to keep each other from, quote unquote, making it. So I think that all of those things are in place and kind of tying into what we were leaving off with the other conversation about is why, this whole thing about reparations and trying to fight for something that you're never going to get is part of the mixture of the Willie Lynch syndrome.
And we just lost Jonathan again. So you know what? If anyone wants to come in and take a seat, make it happen. Tony, Will Inspires jumped in, so I'm going to have him come in. And if anyone who wants to come in and take a seat, please type it in the comment section, and I will do the best I can to make it happen. Hey, Will, that was a quick eat. Go for it. Come on back.
Yeah. Well, I kind of started this little back and forth with Jonathan, so I want to keep that voice in it. I'm going to jump off to the side when he comes back, and if he wants to jump in, I'll step out. But I think it is one of the questions that when we first started, I think is worthy of an answer, even though it may seem repetitive to us, because there are a lot of people, I was surprised, that don't know who Willie Lynch is or what we're talking about. Black people, that don't have any idea what's the Willie Lynch, syndrome, what's all this stuff mean. So I don't know, Tony, do you want to answer that? Who is Willie Lynch? What are the Willie Lynch papers?
Well, this is what, Dr. Vibe, would it be possible for you to make me a co-host?
Sure, no problem. I'll do that right now.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is because I'm going to actually go out of the stream and I'm going to come back in on my phone, and I will actually pull up the Willie Lynch letter on my computer.
Okay.
And hopefully you guys will be able to see it.
Okay, let me just make
Okay.
you. Yeah, you should be a co-host now.
Okay.
Is it
So,
showing?
okay. So I'm actually going to leave the stream and I'm going to come back in on my phone. And I will show you guys my computer.
Respect, see, Will.
Yeah. Tough. All right, so gentlemen, yeah, I think it'd be not everyone does know who or about Willie Lynch, but I think it's good to get some. Let's at least start from the same foundation. Everyone's aware, because nothing like providing a thought process and you're not aware of the foundation. So, oh man, so hopefully Tony can provide. Oh, here he comes. Okay, we got you back, Tony. Hey, Mohammed, how you doing? Okay, good stuff.
Oh, the speech you got on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Hopefully everyone can read that needs to read it.
Do we have the link? We can just share the link. But is that echo coming from?
Actually, I should maybe if he turns it sideways. Yeah, you know what, Tony? Could you provide the link in the comment section? So now he's turning it side. I can't see that sideways.
So I think what I'll do. Hey, Tony, can you hear us?
Well, okay. See, Will, why don't you go on? Can you go on your computer and provide the link, or do you want me to do that?
Yeah, I can pull it up. But what I was just going to give a quick summary, and maybe Tony could correct me because I'm pretty sure he knows a whole lot more than I do. And it was funny someone mentioned the video because I think I actually did read the papers, but when I got a few years later, when I was trying to share it with a young man, I found a video. It was actually a movie, I think, that they talked about it. So in general, the Willie Lynch is, while I'm pulling it up here, it's a set of guidelines for slave owners back. I think he was a French slave owner or someone. He was trying to teach Americans.
He's got the link.
He's got it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's basically trying to teach slave owners how to control slaves without having to use so much force, and because basically it wasn't really working. I mean, it would work for a little while, but we would eventually unite and overcome. As is our nature. And so what he did was basically use the divide and conquer method, dividing the light skins against the dark skins, the house slaves against the field slaves, the old slaves against the young slaves. And set them up against each other. And that same system is continually being passed down through the media and through education and through just the way that we are treating each other. So it's basically the way that the internal racism was first installed, in our ancestors, and has been continued throughout history. And it's what's so appalling about it is its sadistic clarity, of exactly what and why you're doing this. So yeah, that's basically the thinking behind the Willie Lynch papers, was setting them up against each other. And you see it all the time. I mean, even when after I read this paper, I had to look at myself and how did I respond to an older black man? Oh, you're not my dad, because you may be mad because your dad's not there, whatever. So you have this automatic reaction, or this light skin, oh, it's the team light skin or team dark skin. That's where it all started. Or the educated, or now we talk about, oh, he talks white, or you ain't black enough, because it's the house, the quote unquote, house. I'm trying to, guy. I'm trying to speak about saying that word. Yeah. What I'm saying? But and then the field slave, and so we have the same. We're using different names and different, but it's the same mental structures that were set up back in the day, and then we're still perpetuating them.
Okay. And I thank everyone. A lot of you are in on this conversation, and I'm going to put it out there. If you want to take a seat, just type in the comments section. I can manage it, and no problem. And appreciate all the comments that are going on the side. And I'll certainly, and Tony, thank you for the link. Also, thank you for some further explanation. Also, Black FZCCE, thank you so much for your contributions. Skia Jones, hey, what is up? Mohammed, what is up? Also, Honey Please Buzz, and everyone else. Oh, Foso Social, and also Brown Boy Studios. Thank you so much, everyone, and Miss RMBA. But everyone else has come over from the other conversation we were having about 15 minutes ago. So, and also thanks to Claude Diamond. Good. Thanks for dropping by, and gentlemen, continue your conversation. I'm just interjecting. I'm just steering the ship. You guys are driving it and doing a great job. So, additional comments or responses to what people are saying on the side.
Well, one of the things that I want to say is that I think that it's important that whether or not you believe it's real or not, that you at least read it and then form an opinion, for yourself. Because some people are going to say, well, it's not true any longer. But from my vantage point, it looks like it's true. And in a lot of ways, it's reinforced. And so, and I guess what made me sort of even go there, in terms of thinking about this was, this whole conversation that we were having in the other Blab about reparations. And, my concern is that it's time for us to, if we were to get reparations, that's fine. But I just wish that we would begin to really recognize that we don't need other people to validate us. We just need to take care of business and do what we need to do for us. And not focus so much on that, not because we're not deserving. It's not about whether or not we deserve to get reparations, but it shouldn't be that we are waiting for someone to say that we're worthy of validation. That's my issue. I think that, sure, it would be nice to be recognized. But I was just thinking about a Meerkat stream that I was watching this morning, and they were talking about the African-American gentleman who, and I can't think of what his name is right now, but he built the Cameron Indoor Arena at Duke. He also built, not built, he was the architect for Cameron Indoor Arena at Duke and the main chapel at Duke. And he built it, and I'm not sure exactly what year that it was designed, but it wasn't until 40 years after he died that it was even recognized by Duke University. And the only reason that I mention that is because there were other structures that he built as well in the city of Philadelphia, one of the libraries, and I wish I could remember what his name is right now, but I can't. But I said all that to say, because he was a Black man and because he was excellent, others took credit for his designs. And we cannot expect that anyone will acknowledge the things that we do. And so we can't rest on waiting to be validated by other people. You just have to do the best that you can. And I want to share this story, and then I'm going to, I'll stop talking for a while. I have to rein it in sometimes. I went to college for the second time when I was 24 years old. I went to Morehouse College, and I had the opportunity. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you. Julian Abel. That's his name. Thank you so much. I went back to college at 24, and I was on a mission. I was, determined to take care of business, get through. And one of the things I had an opportunity to do was I had an opportunity to interview Benjamin Elijah Mays. And for those of you who don't know who Benjamin Elijah Mays is he was the past president of Morehouse College and was one of the chief mentors for Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, he was up in his 80s, but I got an opportunity to interview him. And here I was, a freshman, had only been on campus for about 2 weeks, because I started in the middle of the semester. I started in the middle of the academic year. I started in January. And so I got an opportunity to interview him. So I went to his house, and he was way up in age, and he wasn't seeing people. And so I sat down with him, and I don't know why there were two leading lady professors at Morehouse that arranged for this to happen. And I still to this day don't know why they did it, but they did. So I sat down with Dr. Mays, and the first thing he asked me was, I call myself interviewing him, and he was interviewing me, because he began to ask me questions like, what was the last thing I read? And then when I told him what I read, and then he said, okay, so he said, this is what you need to read. And he started naming books. So the autobiography of Malcolm X, Up From Slavery. It was just on and on and on and on. And then he gave me that famous quote, he who runs behind must run faster to catch up. And after he made that statement or quoted that quote to me, I understood very clearly, and it set the path for the rest of my life in terms of me understanding that I'm always behind. And when I say I'm always behind, I'm talking about me as a Black man. And so I have to work harder. It's not about someone validating me. It's got to be about me doing what I need to do. And then I'm just going to stop there talking about him. But that was so impactful in my life, I cannot describe it to you. But this is the thing. This is something that my father told me, and I've heard from other older men, that you must always, whatever you do, you must always do it to the best of your ability, and never leave room for anybody to question whether or not you have done the best job you can. And that has stayed with me. And it's something that I actually had a conversation with my son about today. And I understand very clearly that until we begin to think that way about everything that we do, that we just can't haphazardly, even if we're at McDonald's sweeping the floor or mopping the floor, we have to do it to the best of our ability. Because we cannot expect that someone is going to validate us. We have to do it because it's the right thing to do, because we are always what? running behind. And then this last example is, I'm going to I'm just going to make this statement about Barack Hussein Obama. Now, look at his credentials. Look at everything that he has done. Take race out of the picture. Just look at his education, the things that he's done. And if he were definitively of another race, he would be the greatest president that has ever lived. So this is what you have to be. You have to be twice as good, 3 times as great in order to be president. But you can be a C student and be president if you are another race. Am I clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Crystal.
I'll be quiet. As a matter of fact, I will actually go to the side and let someone else come in. But
Okay,
this is, and understand very clearly, I'm not a racist. I love all people, but I understand very clearly it's important for us who are behind to run faster. Don't expect somebody to give you anything, because nobody owes you anything. And the idea of reparations, sure, it's nice, but don't expect somebody to validate you. Be secure in yourself to know that you've done the best that you can do, and that should be validation enough. All right, guys.
Wow. 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 Drop the mic.
Yeah. Yeah, you did drop the mic.
Drop
on
the
us.
mic. Yeah, I'm gonna take Jonathan first. That was history, passion, all in one. That's just drop the mic. I'm glad I recorded that. Gentlemen, do you have anything to say to follow that? Like a man, like drop the mic. Poof. It was just like drop the mic. Wow. Blab over. You leave it. Oh my gosh. Woo. Oh boy. Anyone else want to follow it up?
So I'll presume to do so. So this is what I took away from that. So I like taking notes because there's always so much wisdom being offered, especially in your conversations, Dr. Blab. But the run faster, because
I wish I was Dr. Blab, but I'm Dr. Vibe.
I'm sorry.
Just to correct you.
I had a mind.
It's okay. I'm on Blab and don't. You just gave more ammunition for Ava Laura, so keep on going.
Okay, but so run faster because you're running behind, and then the other one is don't wait for anybody to validate you. Because we have to validate ourselves. And so what I'm thinking here is, what does that look like? What does it look like to understand that we got to run? Because when I think about these things, I'm thinking, okay, how do we get ahead as a people? Or how do we at least bring some equality to the measure? And the way I see it is, you got to look at in any case, if you can look at where has it been done successfully, and can we do that? And when I look at, like when I was in Boston, I looked around at the Irish community, and how did they do it? They came in, they were viewed by everyone. If you don't know this, most of race is it has an economic base, right? And so they were viewed, they were called this and that by the whites or the Italians. They all talked about each other in negative ways, right? But they unified. They started these little halls. They had these social halls, and if so and so had a garage, he would hire your son. And it's the same thing we see going on now. We talk bad about it, but however, it's a successful strategy, right? If you, if we, in other words, I don't want to, sit here and, just advocate only hiring people and people who you're friends with, but we really got to think about how can we do better at supporting each other with intent, because the other races do it without an apology, and we walk around like there's something wrong with that. We're mad at them for helping themselves out, but we don't help ourselves out and wonder why we're always at the bottom. If you look at the Mexican people, they're doing the same thing. They help each other out. They live together. They share their financial resources together until they're owning their own business. And the other immigrant communities are doing the same and starting to gain where we're at as far as economically, even starting to surpass us because of that unity. So I think one thing that really inspired me from that conversation from Tony was, because I'm in the community organizing space, that's where my mind goes. I'm like, okay, how can I do that with excellence to bring this about? How can we actually start to connect to each other and create supportive networks that are efficient and effective to start uplifting ourselves, not asking anybody else for reparations or acknowledgement of our greatness, recognizing that we are and that we can use that to uplift each other. So that's where I'm at.
Before we let Brother Muhammad say something, can I just comment real quick on what C. Will said?
Sure.
I just left a large meeting with a pretty prominent CEO, and we were talking about raising capital and huge sums of money. And the one thing that he said is that people lend money to, in his group, people have lent money to the people that they have been friends with. Well, African Americans primarily aren't a part of this inner circle. So if we're not a part of the inner circle, then we're not the ones that can actively raise capital from this particular inner circle, which is extremely large. So I just wanted to say that to kind of complement what you just said.
Well, and before I let Abdul on, someone told me this a while back, and I think it's so true, that you're either sitting at the table or you're on the table. So on that note, Abdul, thank you so much for joining the conversation. And then there's a question on the side that is going to be asked of all you. So go ahead, Abdul. What do you want to contribute?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Man, that was a good message. That I think his name is Tony. Is that his name? Tony, the guy before? Yeah, great message.
Yeah.
I want to talk about something what I call the curse of success. A lot of times when you have people like who've won lotteries, maybe a person has made it to their first $1 million in their business, maybe their father or mother is wealthy. A lot of times what happened is people tend to stop because the hunger is going. This is why in the NBA and the NFL, when these guys who've had no money whatsoever in their life, they struggled all their life to get where they are. Now they've amassed this wealth and they stop. I think it's a blessing not to be somewhat bombarded with free this, like here's money for death, here's money for reparations or things like this, because I live in South Dakota right now, and there's a lot of Native Americans here. And one thing I've noticed is that, and I didn't want to believe the stereotype because I've heard it from people, but a lot of them are alcoholics. A lot of them have no drive. A lot of them don't have college educations because they have this somewhat of an easy life. Like every month something's coming. Every month something's coming. So when you don't have something to work for, it takes the drive out of you. So I always see this fight for, let me get reparations. Let's help each other out. But for instance, Blab is in beta right now. And to get to startups, the way startups work is if I'm an angel investor, I'm only investing in something that I know is going to give me a good ROI. Not necessarily because my brother created something. I'm not into investing because he's my brother and I'm going to lose money. But it's in beta because they're basically collecting all the thoughts and all the decisions and all the things that we talk about here, and they're going to make it better. And then once they see, like, hey, they show the analytics, we're getting this many views, or we're getting this. And when Facebook comes with the $1 billion check to buy it, it's not because this is Mark Zuckerberg's cousin. It's because this is a product that works. So I think we should focus more on that, educating ourselves to be better, and not necessarily spend a lot of time trying to get things and get more things. Just become better people, better educated people, more skills. And then if you add value, you'll get what you want out of this universe. That's just my opinion.
Good point. Good point. Excellent. Well done. Any gentlemen want to respond to that? And I'm going to ask, no, keep on going. I'm going to see there. I know what. Okay. Actually, there's a question from Askia Jones saying, let's educate the audience. I would like the men in the seat to share examples of how Willie Lynch is indeed live and well today, and how do we counteract these
Can ills? I go first?
Absolutely.
When I was growing up, my mom, she was a housekeeper. So she kind of, did domestic work for Jewish families. And in doing that domestic work, she would come and tell me different things to keep me safe. In her mind was to keep me safe. So she would tell me, when you see the police, never run. This is how you behave. Know that the police, just give them your name and your address, that the police are going to, they're not your friends. And she would kind of tell me how to behave around Caucasians. This is how you act. This is how you speak, and I think that in and of itself, although was good to a degree, was part of the Willie Lynch syndrome, because it's designed, because she had to do what she had to do to make it, to keep herself safe. She inherently passed those things down to me, and I had to kind of get my manhood from my father, who didn't live with me at the time. So I had to go and seek how to be strong, how to represent myself in a strong way from my father. And it took me time to kind of understand what my mother was saying, but release the fear and the apprehension from her message.
Okay. Anyone else want to give a example? Thank you, Daphne Clark Hudson, for joining in. Long time.
So let me just say that part of the Willie Lynch syndrome is that if you break the female, then she will inherently break the child.
Can I add something to the Willie Lynch?
Sure, go ahead.
And I know all of this. We have history to prove that this happened with Willie Lynch. But one thing I've noticed is that when I'm talking to clients and talking to people about what is some of their setbacks, a lot of times they're saying things like their family tends to be one of the first people to be jealous or against them when they're trying to do something. Because one thing about, and a lot of us, I'm sure in this Blab can relate to this, when you step out and you want to be an entrepreneur and you're one of the first ones in your family to do so, you're the oddball. You're stepping outside the comfort zone, and you're going to meet a lot of resistance. And the reason why you're meeting resistance is because those people want to be in your position. They want to have the bravery to do something, especially if it makes it. So I think there's jealousy that actually exists in all races and all different types of people. Right. It's and way I like to the label that is, it's the people who live in the comfort zone and the people who step outside of the comfort zone. Because a lot of the Black anger is they're not angry at you because they're either angry at you because maybe, let's say, you look better, or maybe you have a better job, or maybe you live in a better neighborhood. But those are the same things that other people will be jealous of, all different backgrounds also. So I don't think it just exists here.
That's true, but to share my experience, I think that it has a different or amplified expression sometimes in our community. So when I got into community development, I rose quickly, through the ranks of whatever. And I got a very good job, one that on paper I wasn't qualified for. I mean, in fact, he had to rewrite a new job description just so I can get the job. And so now I'm working for a nonprofit. We're doing community organizing, etc. And it was just basically me, him, and a couple other white ladies. And then he hired a young black woman to be the, administrator. And so, it seemed okay when she first got there, but then after a while, she started undercutting me and, trying to take away my privileges, or trying to argue that, why does he get to come in whenever he wants? How come he gets an expense account? How come this and that? He doesn't even have. I mean, she didn't say he doesn't even have a degree, but it was like she was trying to convince, our boss to rein me in and to put controls on me, even though I was doing my job and doing it well, right? But none of the white ladies had any problem with me, and they were actually on the other side of this, tension once it became more apparent, and so it was. I couldn't understand it because when she first got there, I was like, okay, great. Now there's another black person here. Great. Let's be friends. Right. And she played me definitely, in that regard, like she would chum me up to me. The next thing I know, I'm sitting in the office with the guy and he's like, yeah, she said such and such about you, when I thought it was just me and her being cool, And so I think what I had wrote while I was listening to Ahmed is that my observation of that situation was a lot of times we want to. It's a white patriarchal society that we're in, and so they will try to make the white man happy. Oh, we gotta, win our favor to the white man, right? We gotta, I'm not prejudiced. I'm just saying this is kind of how it seems, right? It's like who can be the best. Let's put on who can put on the best show so we can get the best raise or whatever, and I think that, it hurt me, because I'm like, hey, we're out here, we're supposed to be helping the community, we're supposed to be helping each other, etc. But here she's playing these old school corporate games, trying to take me down. For what reason? I don't. Well, I did have a lot more power and authority in whatever than her. But I wasn't lording it over her or anything like that. I think she felt I didn't deserve it. I wasn't educated enough, or for whatever reasons, she wanted to, compete, or to make me look bad and stuff. So, I thought that was, and my allies were the white women, so I'm just like, I couldn't get it. And to me, that was the only explanation I had of it was, she was just so bent on being the number one Negro in, on the job.
Abdul, I would also say too that with us, it's not just like, okay, there's Abdul, and let me say something negative about him. Oh, there's Abdul. Let me try to criticize what he's doing. No, with us, we're like, no, we will physically kill you. Because we don't want you to make it ahead of us. We will do whatever we can. We will burn your house down. And if you look historically, you'll see that trend has actually been a part of our culture. That we will do things to actually physically keep you from excelling because we don't want to feel like we're being left behind in our own misery. Whereas other cultures, which I've worked with a lot, other cultures, they may have some jealousy. They may say, oh, this person thinks that they're better, what have you, but they're not taking action steps against that person to hinder them and physically destroy them.
Well, You know, one of the questions that I get a lot, and actually I received it in the room tonight when I say it from South Dakota. I can't forget it. I forget the gentleman's name that said it. They can't believe that I'm from South Dakota. And one of the reasons why they can't believe I'm from South Dakota is because they always say this: there are black people living in South Dakota, and then that's.
Hold on, hold on a second. Now, I don't get involved in conversations much. I live in Canada. A lot of your fellow Black Americans don't think there's any blacks in Canada. So go
I know
on
better
now.
because I've traveled to Canada about 3-4 times. I know because I've been there. Now, I see this argument where we say, well, it's worse for us. Now, are you saying that out of knowledge because you've been in white communities and you lived amongst white people for many years? Or are you saying it off of maybe just speculation that you think it's worse? Because I've been in groups where an attractive woman will come in a room and both of them are Caucasian. And then all of a sudden they're like, I don't like that person. Like, oh, do you know that person? No, I just don't like her. Why? And they won't say it, but the person that's making the statement is bigger. And the person that walks in looks like they maybe work out or something like that. So I wouldn't say that these things don't exist in their communities also. I just think that it's kind of like we're looking at life from our perspective. We think it's the same. It's the same rules apply everywhere you go. Because some people they're actually concerned about my safety. Like, you better be careful out there. You're amongst all these Caucasian people. I'm like, white people are not the big bad wolf. You know, I mean, I know things happen in the past and things like that, but you have to learn how to live and be who you are and comfortable who you are, no matter what environment you live in. You know, that's just my take on it.
So I have not only have I worked in those scenarios, I live in a community like that now. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that they're the big bad wolf. I'm saying we are. We're the big bad wolf as it relates to each other.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid in the community that I live in. I feel great.
Same here.
But going into Baltimore City,
that's my hometown.
Okay, but hold on. Now let me tell you something. Are you talking about lower income areas? Because crimes tend to be rampant, amongst the low income area. What do you say when you go to Baltimore? What do you mean by that? Explain that more.
I mean, period. If I have to go inside of the Beltway, I am in Navy SEAL mode.
You said Navy SEAL mode.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I keep saying, but you're talking about a community that's probably full of crime. And that's whether you go to Memphis, Arkansas, New Orleans. I mean, we could talk about that in many different communities, right? If you go in Latin neighborhoods in LA, you could say, hey, I feel like a Navy SEAL. It depends on what turf you go on, right? But
and I have to jump in and defend because I'm from Baltimore, right? Mm-hmm. And so
here we go.
And I lived in those communities for years. So it's true, when you're when you're part of the community, it's the danger aspect drops dramatically, right? Because I know the community, right? And so, in other words, yeah, there was drug dealing. Yeah, one of my neighbors got shot in the face downstairs, right? But he was dealing drugs and he was doing something he wasn't supposed to do. Like he had broke a rule or whatever with whoever he was working for or whoever's territory it was. You know what I'm saying? And so in my experience in Baltimore, it's actually pretty safe for everybody, except if you're doing something you're not supposed to do. Of course, every now and then there's random shooting where there's people get shot because people can't aim, But generally, it's organized. That's one thing I like about Baltimore. It's like, it's like jobs. I heard them talking. It's like, they got shifts, they got schedules. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's like real straight up jobs. You know what I'm saying? And so, of course, but the consequence of not performing could be getting shot. But the point is, I had to learn that. And so, because my dad was in the Navy, so I moved. I've lived in all these different communities. And once you get in a community, you have to learn the community and see what's going on. And then you can kind of adapt and find where you're safe, how to be safe. And so So basically, like for me, you know, yes, it may be the most dangerous neighborhood in Baltimore, but I'm safe walking through here because I'm from here. Now, it's true, Ahmed being not from there, you know, and giving off that vibe that he's nervous is going to attract predators, right? Or people saying, where are you from? Why are you here? You know, but that being said, when I was living in Baltimore when I was younger, when I came from basically a suburban area, a mixed community and all that nice, you know, car garage, all that stuff, and moved into the ghetto. And it was, you know, of course I was scared in the beginning, and all my cousins did was beat me up, right? But anyway, the point is they were trying to tough me up and get me used to the environment, and they did. And then what I recognized is that they had more love there in that community than I had ever seen in any other community that I was in. They were tight knit, you know. In other words, yes, I can walk and I can feel safe. I can walk out my door and walk into someone else's house down the row or whatever. But of course, anybody that wasn't from there couldn't walk into this kind of like invisible bubble, right? And you had your little territories and all this other stuff. So I'm not saying it's not safe, but I'm saying that if you're actually living there and you're part of the community, it's not as dangerous as it may seem, as long as you're in your kind of so-called safety zone, you know.
So, see, Will, I was born and raised in Baltimore, born and raised in Park Heights community, Park Heights and Cold Spring.
Okay.
And I think that you made a very good point that emphasizes the Willie Lynch, that if you are a part of the barrel, they won't mess with you. That's it. If you are a part of the bubble, then they see you as one of them. So for many years, I carried a sidearm. I worked for a detective agency. And I'm telling you, when they thought that I was not part of the community, although I'm like, look, I've grown up in this community my entire life, you know, when they thought that I was not part of it, because now I'm carrying a sidearm, I have to carry myself in a different manner. And they say, oh, you know, he's not from around here. Now, again, they see me as a black man not being a part of the barrel. Let's grab him and try to pull him in.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but when you say they, let's just give they a name. Are you talking about when black male men see you in that area and you don't tend to look like you're from that area, they get upset? Is that correct? Are you talking about black women also? I'm
in the context that I'm speaking in. So I use the Baltimore City as a metaphorical example, but I'm saying that the big bad wolf, and that I'm saying from my perspective, is not that I'm saying white people or the white man, and I'm not saying, I'm not eliminating that and saying that there aren't, you know, Caucasians that are trying to play a destructive role and keeping the lid on the barrel. I'm only saying that from my personal experience that I have seen, and many different examples in the professional world as well as in the community, that when they start thinking that you're going to make it out, that they will definitely come against you. And the way that I was able to do it was to keep my mouth shut and make moves in silence.
Okay, I get what you're saying, but that's just like, okay, first of all, let's just state this. Crime that's committed is committed mostly by the same race. Would you agree?
Right. Against each other,
blacks killing blacks, yeah. And then if I watch the news today and I hear of a stabbing, 9 times out of 10, I know immediately that's Native Americans, because most of the crimes that they commit here, they stab each other. And I've even heard in Caucasian circles that say, hey, you don't have to police Native Americans. They'll kill each other. Which in a sense is true, because they're killing each other. They're not out killing all different types of races, which is the same thing that happens a lot in black culture, in African-American culture. The ones that maybe tend to be in that environment tend to kill each other. So it's a war on themselves. And Ahmed and C. Will Inspire, I can see you guys going to Baltimore, but I can't see you guys participating in that type of activity. You don't seem like you would go. You seem like you're street smart enough not to go to certain areas where it'll be dangerous for you. So I think when you go to Baltimore, you're not going to the impoverished areas unless you maybe have some family there. You're going to maybe get some seafood or go to some areas that are not so dangerous.
Well, I got family everywhere in Baltimore, and yeah, I could go in all the places, but I would speak to what Ahmad said. Is I would know how to be. In other words, like, well, I can clearly see what he's talking about. If I'm walking, if I was part of the the aesthetic in the beginning, and then I come back and I'm walking around with a sidearm, all up straight with my pressed shirt on, completely different reaction is going to happen. And so, I can definitely understand what he's talking about. He's like, you may be from here or whatever, but you done switch sides, and now you're one of them, and you're one of the enemy. And so, and it's so true what he's saying about having to be quiet, because I did the same thing. Like, even when I was there, because I was a very high performing student. However, only the people in the school, in the classes that I was high performing may know. Like, I didn't share my grades with anybody. I didn't share all my extracurricular activities with anybody. I mean, the most somebody may have seen me carrying my instrument, right? But I had a whole nother life. I was used to kind of living these dual lives. Okay, now I'm just a boy in the hood, but you're not going to see me that often because I'm normally at school or somewhere doing some work like that. But the point I'm getting at is you do got to kind of be quiet about it. This brings up a challenge, which I see that we have to kind of get over and address, is a lot of times, because it is so hard to kind of claw your way out of this barrel, so to speak, which is where I thought you were going to go, Abdul, when you were talking about the curse of success or whatever, is that once you become so successful as a Black person, having to fight against your own people just to make it out, a lot of them have this mentality like, nah, I'm not helping them out. You know what I'm saying? Them cats ain't help me. I ain't got nothing to say to you. You know what I'm saying? I'm over here and I fought my ass off to get over here. You better do the same. Like, I ain't even trying to hear it, right? And that's a lot of mentality that a lot of people who had to go through the struggle and made it out have in our community. And so it makes it very challenging, which is what I'm thinking I want to do is we got to connect all these people who are successful and allow them to support people who aren't in our communities. Maybe you don't have to do it directly. Maybe you can hire somebody like me or whatever, or form an organization and contribute your finances. But I think it should be done with that intent. Like, hey, we are going to help our own people. And so we definitely have to do some healing about that, especially the people who make it out, because that has been the attitude in my experience, or not in my experience, in my observation. Like, even when you look at people like Bill Cosby or other prominent, quote unquote, Black intellectuals, they kind of have a disdain for the uneducated and the more, rough in our communities. They're like, well, you just got to work. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, I ain't got, I got all this, but I can't get none of it to you because you just got to work. You ain't gonna be right if I give you a helping hand, which is just insane logic. Because like I said, when you look at every other race, they all help each other. You know what I'm saying? And we're just like, nah, I ain't got no help for you.
I'd like to add just something in and I'll let Dr. Vibe take it from here. There's another type of jealousy that maybe you guys are aware of this. I don't have jealousy from Black men. I have jealousy from white men. And the silence that you're speaking of right now, I have to have that same silence. Like, for instance, so the type of line of work I've traveled, I've did a few things, and the people who work jobs tend to be upset. So they'll ask in the kind of arrogant way, so what did you do this weekend? And if you say, hey, I went to China and I went all over the southern region and I happened to stop in the north. I went to Beijing or whatever. They get upset. Oh, you guys have the perfect life. And I've been in arguments where someone will start an argument only based on what they think your life is because they're jealous of it. And they're white men. So it's not because in that situation, it's not because, I don't know what's the real reason is because, but I think that sense of that thing right there is basically, hey, here's a guy who's doing something that I would love to do, and he's doing it. And how is it fair for him to do it and not me? So if I was to analyze it further, maybe it does come down to race. But I also have a certain type of discrimination, even though I'm removed out of the so-called Black community and it's majority white here. So I don't know. I don't know if that's something you can escape.
Well, I think that is just a basic jealousy that you're explaining. And, you know, I read a quote today, you know, to be successful, you just got to do the work. You know, a lot of us complain about not being successful. And, you know, but the real reason is just you're just not doing the work. You know, there's necessary effort that you got to put in to change your life, to go a different way. And there's a risk that you have to take. And I think, you know, like you know, if you're not empowered enough and or confident enough to take that risk, you kind of just to build yourself up, you tear people down who have done it around you, you know. So I think that's more like a basic human thing. Yeah.
Growing up, the community that I grew up in, I was a light-skinned kid growing up in a dark-skinned neighborhood.
Yep.
And I was beat, like not just beat up, but I was beat. I mean, up until I was about 14 years old. I mean, constantly beat. And I'm like, I could brawl. I mean, I was studying martial arts. I'm like, I could brawl, you know, but it was the thing of, you think that you're white, you're playing the violin, you went to Peabody Institute, you're going to Baltimore City School for the Arts. I was there when Tupac and Jada was going there. You're going to Baltimore City School for the Arts. You talk funny, you act funny, you play a girl instrument, you know, and it was that thing that when I realized, you know what, I have to make my moves very silent, like the knight on a chessboard, you know. And now, I mean, I do feel comfortable really going to any area in Baltimore. Like C. Will said, I won't go during certain times because I know certain people are working those times, right? But nevertheless, when it's daytime, you know, if we're talking about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, when I know a lot of those people that work the night shift are sleeping, right? I feel totally comfortable, you know, going. But at the same time, I recognize what environment that I'm entering, and I will change myself. I will go into my swagger, you know, hey, yo, what's up, son? Hey, how you doing? You know, I know how to go into that. Yeah. I know how to morph my character so that I'm perceived as being, you know, one of the local people. But it's a shame that I have to do that, though.
And I
agree.
True.
I'm sorry, Dr. Vibe, you probably have something to add to this.
Well, what I'm gonna have to respectfully let one of you go because I know there are two people. But Ahmed, thank you so much. Oh, that was quick. All right, I know that Tony wanted to get in. Well, Brown. Okay, there's a lineup because Tony wanted to get into. So Brown boy, you got first.
I can make some space as well.
Okay, no problem. I appreciate it. See, Will. I'm going to kick you out. All right, there we go. So Tony, and I know maybe Askia want to get in. So either Tony or Askia, there is a free seat for you.
What's going on,
Brown
fellas?
boy, what is up?
Going on? First of all, nothing against South Dakota. Just again, surprised that it was so much love for
everyone's surprised.
Just wanted to clear that up, right? Yeah. But in any event, first, I just wanted to get off my chest in regards to reparations. I much love to Brother Tony in regards to how you put it down. Much love. And I would say about the reparations piece of it, it has absolutely nothing to do with validation. Nothing to do with validation. And it's, I think a lot of times it's unfortunate. That's what a lot of us as Black people, we think that someone always validate us. If they give us something, it's validation. But the reparation piece of it, it has absolutely nothing to do with validation. Okay, it's like someone working for, it's like either one of us are going to a job and you're working that job and they're telling you, well, we're not going to pay you. So it has absolutely nothing to do with reparations. I get the fact that we don't want to put ourselves in a position where we're waiting for that check. I totally get that. I totally completely understand that. But the other piece of it, I think that the gentleman that just left off, Ahmed, I believe I've met him before. Nice guy. I think that was his name, Ahmed. I put in the side notes earlier in regards to. I think one of the biggest issues is that a lot of times that when Blacks do make it, have a level of success, they leave their Black communities. And again, not that there's anything wrong with leaving a Black community, but they get to a place in their mind, like an O.J. Simpson, if it reminds me of, where is that they get to such a place where they just don't make themselves relatable. I made it pro-social, exactly. They get themselves to a place where they just don't want to. It's not so much that they can't, but they don't want to relate to the brothers and the sisters anymore. So, can we say that that the people? Can we say that Blacks aren't getting along? There's no connection. I can't. I don't. We can't definitively say that. I think there's lots of connection if the Blacks want to make that connection. I think a lot of times once they've made it, according to the white man. Once they made it or believe that they're at this status financially or social status, they completely disconnect. In some instances, I can't say all of them, but I think a lot of them completely disconnect, and it's unfortunate because there's just the millennial growing up and just an awesome opportunity. Trouble saying that word, and also opportunity to just teach, and just share, and just it's an awesome opportunity. I mean, such as Blab, and it's just a cool thing, man. But we can't just say that. I think it's just too we get to a place where we just disconnect with who we are, and. It's all about relationship. It's all about relationship because I grew up in the projects too, and I had to learn how to speak different because I got tired of them telling me you speak or you talk funny. Yes. So I get it. I do understand it, but it comes to a point where you just you recognize your own self that I'm different. And you work. We can work much better as a group. As a community of people, and we spend, most of us know the stats. I'm completely certain on the stats, but we spend, Black folks spend enough money on XYZ and ABC and all, to have their own banks, their own schools, their own, computer software companies, and it's just a matter of just collecting our thoughts, getting back on the right track, and having some kind of just some kind of guidelines of what we need to do to get financially sound and, better schools and things of that nature. So that's my spiel there. So I'll step out and let someone else step in.
You don't step out unless you want to come back in. Askia,
what's going on?
What is up? Sorry, I had to draw you in again.
I was trying not to come in.
Yeah. I already had my pajamas on. I had to step out, get out of bed, and put my clothes on.
No, seriously. This, I don't, I saw the tweet and I was like, man, Dr. Vibe lost his mind. I was like, this dude. I was like, wait, let me come in here and see what this brother talking about. And then when I saw Tony, I said, this must have been Tony's idea.
No, before you get started, what happened was earlier on we did an hour of Black men and mental health. So we stopped the recording and then a whole other conversation started. So I said, okay, you know what? This time I'm going to cut it. We're going to record this conversation. So this is how this came about, and was Tony gave the title Willie Lynch is alive and well.
All right. I'm gonna come in and just try to give a small contribution, because this could be like part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5,
Absolutely.
part 6, part 7, part 9, part 10. I mean, seriously, because the letters are so deep.
Yeah,
and I don't mean deep from a psychological standpoint, there's so much involved in these letters. Now, for those that don't quite understand, I know they kind of gave a brief summary. There has been some contradiction of the validity of these letters. Now, this is what I've always said about it, because I read these years ago. Supposedly, the letters were written in the 1700s by this guy named Willie Lynch that was trying to teach people how, slave owners, how to be able to train their slaves or conduct their slaves, you know. But the letters were authenticated in the 1970s. Now, this is the crazy thing, though. This is what I've always told people. Even if it was authenticated in the 70s, it's still prophetic. It is so prophetic. And that's why, as much as I've enjoyed the conversation, that's why it was important for me to note that as much as everybody was sharing some really good information, I felt as though we were kind of not addressing the Willie Lynch letters as it relates to where we are today. Because it really doesn't speak to racism, bigotry outwardly. It really speaks to, as I wrote in the questionnaire, the inward psychological implosion that our community has right now, and it's basically based upon the mental and social reprogramming that we have accepted as truth. And what I mentioned in the questionnaire is that that's what keeps us in conflict with each other. Now, let me give you an example. I can go all day with this. Let me try to go real fast. If you understand the 5 estates, and I think Dr. Vibe might understand the 5 estates. This is originally the reason why I was saying Dr. Vibe might, because it was originally written in by the French. The first estate speaks to the clergy. The first estate speaks to the clergy. The second estate speaks to nobility, right? The third estate speaks to the common people. The fourth estate speaks to the media or the press. Now, later there came a fifth estate, which speaks to what we have right now, which is Blab. Bloggers, people that hold the fourth estate accountable, which is what we are doing right now, right? Now, why did I mention those estates? Well, what the Willie Lynch letters really did, and what it was designed to do, was to create an ecosystem of classism within our own community. See, a lot of times we have this tendency to say, well, we go back to Africa, right? Or we're gonna, or the Nation of Islam, so we need our own land, right? And we're gonna create our own place. But what they don't understand is we've already done that.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've already done that. We've created a level of classism within the Black community. That's why I mentioned those 5 estates. We have the clergy, which is where the Black church was groomed. That's why during slavery, look, I believe in the Bible. Let me go ahead and keep it clear right now. I know a lot of people don't. Look, everything has been misused. Anything with power and influence will be misused. So you have the Crusades, right? You have the slavery where they took the scripture and took the word and they said, hey, look at this. This is what this means. Well, the reason why I'm using clergy is because what they did was they understood that first estate and said, hey, the most important thing is the clergy. Mm-hmm. And that's how we were groomed as Blacks. Everything was done in the church. We mobilized in the church. We strategized in the church. We ran to the church, right? That became our refuge. That's what they intended. They intended for us, that was to be our escape, our place of peace, our place of whatever. And that's what they create. So that's why when you look at where we are today, we're a people of faith, or we're people of religion, however you want to call it. But we're known to be people, and that's why we almost always lean toward democratic, right? Because based on in American society, right? Whether it's they're for us or against us, we have a tendency to lean more toward liberal values. Now, I'm going to keep going. Then you have the second estate, which is nobility. All that is the haves. And the third states are the common people and the have not. And what they've done is a gentleman in there, I think his name is Digital Biz Dude. He put in an interesting number. And I didn't know it was that high. I knew it was pretty high, but he said, I believe it was 1.2 trillion in our purchasing power, correct? Which is about right. I didn't know it was that high. What that speaks to is the amount of money that circulates within the African-American community where we have the ability to be able to purchase whatever we deem necessary or what is important. Well, when you create through what the Willie Lynch letters did, remember now, it was about old and young, right? Light skin, dark skin. It was about creating a society, a classism. See, what people don't understand is racism is rooted in classism, but it's fueled by power. See, we have a tendency to group everything in the same bubble. We call everything racism. As soon as somebody says something, he racist, right? But that ain't racist. Sometimes it's a straight up bigot. Or sometimes we'll say you prejudiced. Well, you might be prejudiced, but that might have actually just been a sign of racism. And let me give you a quick example.
Askia, hold on. As we say in DJ circles, rewind. Repeat that again. Rewind about the racism.
Yeah, we call things, and I'm going to explain why I'm going through this first. We call things racism when we shouldn't.
Yep.
And that's purposely done because they don't want us to understand what racism really is. It's important because racism is rooted in classism. And that's what we've done. We've created classism within our own communities. And the reason why I say it's rooted in classism is because what it does is it creates a hierarchy based on those estates, the clergy, the nobility, then the common people, right? And so it goes back to Charles Dickens. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. And that's where the fighting and the quarreling begins. But let me go back real quick. The reason why I say there's a unique difference, and it's very important we understand this. Racism is rooted in classism, but fueled by power. Racism is when a person has the ability to socially, politically, and economically disenfranchise someone, right? To disarm them socially, to underserve them socially, politically, and economically, right? Bigotry is rooted in ignorance, but fueled by hate. I hate you because you're black. I hate you because you're gay. I hate you because you don't look like me. That's bigotry. A bigot may not even have the power or ability to be racist. They may want to be racist. A lot of them probably wish they were racist, but they don't have the resources to be racist. Yeah. Prejudice is also rooted in ignorance, but it's fueled by preference. Give me an example. I can be prejudiced and I have a racist bone, a bigoted bone in my body. It could be a young Caucasian girl who has all these great black friends, but she just chooses to date white dudes. But she'll drink after her black homegirl, eat after her, pick up her sandwich. Hey, you want to finish that? I'll finish it. And she'll eat after her. She'll wear her clothes and do all use her brush, everything. A bigot wouldn't do that. Matter of fact, a bigot would rather die than you give them mouth to mouth. So that is the difference between the three. And it's important that we understand the three, because let me show you why. We do that exact same thing within the black community. That is why we have those estates. For example, how many people in here actually put a one? All the black people here that respect Al Sharpton, put a one. Let me see if I see any. Okay, I see one.
Al Sharpton?
Al Sharpton.
Yeah, you heard him right.
All right. I saw one. I was shocked to get one.
You know exactly what he said.
But I understand Tachi, because Tachi can see beyond the fluff. She's a very educated sister, so I think she can see beyond the surface. So I got nothing but respect for her. But listen to this. This is what I meant by the first estate, the clergy. They taught us to lean on the church, right? To confide in the church, right? Wade in the water. What did wade in the water mean during the Negro spiritual? It means meet me there. That used to be our way of signals of escape. It wasn't a song. These Negro spirituals were actually codes that we created for whether we were going to escape or whether we found some place to actually go to for refuge.
Just like Patois.
Right. So now check. Right. Exactly. So now check this out. So now what happened is they allow you to build that trust system within the church, but then they pull that rug from up under you. That is why we no longer have respect for Al Sharpton. That is why we no longer have respect for Jesse Jackson. That is why we no longer have respect for Bill Cosby. That's why we no longer have respect for Minister Farrakhan. Because what they've done is they've taken the clergy and they've disrupted the authority. And I'm going to be honest with you, and they bought them out so that we don't trust them anymore. And so now it goes into one of the most important aspects of the Willie Lynch letter is now not trusting the old and the young, which is basically the elders, right? And the youth. So what they did was they created that divide within there. So then they created the haves and the have-nots within the community. So now we have the LeBron James, we have the singers, the athletes, the Chris Browns, the Rihanna, the Beyonce, and what we do is we aspire, right? Well, there's nothing wrong with aspiration, but see, that falls back into reparation. See, we got to be careful with this aspiration thing they give us, because when we talk about reparation, do you know what reparation really does? It gives you a sense of entitlement. And when you have a sense of entitlement, do you know what you do? You do nothing because you feel like somebody owe you something and you sit and you wait for it. When am I going to get my 40 acres and a mule? See, that's what reparations do. We got to be very careful when we keep asking for reparations, because the more we ask for reparations, the less we do. We sit and we wait for people to give us something. So we march and say, give us what you owe us. Instead of saying, no, I'm going to build something. I'm going to create something. I'm going to start something. Right. But they want us to keep thinking. Why do you think they haven't given us reparations? It's the carrot on the string. We'll give it to you. We'll think about it. Maybe, maybe not. To keep us hoping and waiting and not doing anything, not building anything, not working together. Right? Because what happens is you sit and you wait. That's why you have, God bless her, the young African-American girl, God bless her, who has a man who wants to marry her, but she's telling him no. If I know we have 3 kids, I know we have 4 kids, but if I marry you, I don't get assistance anymore. They're preventing you from creating a nuclear family. That's what this system is designed to do. That's another example of the Willie Lynch letter. See, what I'm trying to do is give you all examples of how it exists today. Yeah. What are the Republicans saying today? And I'm a Republican. I know a lot of people might look at me like I'm crazy. I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican, but I ain't crazy.
Watch your mouth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm messing with you.
But I'm not crazy, right?
It's good. I'm messing with you.
But this is important. This is the narrative that's going on today. Why do you think Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are leading in the polls? I'm sorry, Dr. Vi. I got carried away. I didn't mean to go through all this.
No.
Want to come in.
No. You're staying on.
I can take off.
Abdul, I'm going to knock you out because someone else wants to come in. I'm going by longest on. So, Abdul, thank you so much, and I hope I get an email from you soon.
I'm going to say 2 more things.
All right.
Dr. Vi, you need a part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, part 6. But I want somebody else to say something. I want to hog up everything, but there's 2 more things that's very important. I want to say. We have to control the narrative. That is the 4th estate, the media and the press. We do not control your narrative. When you win, you control the narrative. We're losing. Therefore, we don't control the narrative. Let me give you a quick example. Why do you think Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are leading in the polls? Because they fooled us into thinking that they're the least political. They're the least politicians, right? Bernie Sanders, the progressive, he's a progressive, and Donald Trump says it like it is. Now, they're both supposedly saying the exact same thing. Now, I'm going to go to that 3rd estate, the common people. That's why it's very important. What we do as the common people is we believe that what Donald Trump is saying is Donald Trump is speaking for us. He's politically incorrect. He's going to say what's on his mind, and he's saying on the behalf of the people. So we buy into that rhetoric. But then you have Bernie Sanders that does the exact same thing, but he does it a different way. He also positions himself and sells himself by saying, I'm for the people too. Even though I'm not going to say insensitive things, sexist things, quasi-racist things, but I'm going to do it through my commercials. That's why if you look at his commercials, you don't really see him to the end. You see black people, white people, straight people, gay people, all Asian people, Hispanic people. He's trying to do this and show this inclusive, holistic,
everybody's getting along. Yeah.
Where we all like, whoa, that's the way the world is supposed to be. And he speaks for us, but he doesn't speak through us through this unconventional, politically incorrect manner. He speaks to us through his narrative. That is his narrative. That is how he communicates. So what am I saying? Well, now the Republicans are saying, let me be honest with you, the conservative Republicans are saying, well, the reason why we're for Bernie and the reason why we're for Trump, the two polar opposites, is because we are afraid. The country is afraid. Well, who the hell do you think placed that fear in us? When Barack Obama became president of the United States, think about this. Before he was even inaugurated, Rush Limbaugh said, I hope he fails. Yeah. He was the president-elect. He said, I hope. Now, this is one of the leaders in conservative narrative. That's why I mentioned his name. This is very important. If y'all don't understand how powerful Rush Limbaugh is, man, y'all need to do some research. This dude is powerful. This dude is extremely powerful. Look, let me ask you a question. Why do you think every time they have a conversation, they say Barack Hussein Obama? Obama. Think about it. But they all think about it. But they all have gotten behind Ted Cruz, but they don't say Raphael Ted Cruz, do they? That's his real name. I don't have a problem with it, but they know that those real right-wing conservatives, them gun-toting conservatives from Alabama and Mississippi and Georgia are not going to vote for a guy named Raphael Eduardo Cruz. They ain't going to do it. But they'll vote for Teddy Cruz. Because Teddy's from Texas. Teddy's one of us. Teddy's a gun-toting NRA licensed citizen from Canada.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But Barack Hussein Obama was a Muslim. He was not a citizen. Think about the narrative now. This is where the fear came in. Glenn Beck called him racist. Well, why am I saying this? Because what happened was, and this is how we win. The Barack Obama train was moving so fast, they couldn't stop it. They couldn't stop it. Who in here? You like football, right, Curtis?
Oh yeah, of course.
Will, you like football, right?
I don't watch it.
You don't count. Dr. Vaughn, you like football, right?
You want me to? I can cook them out.
I got injuries. I got injuries. 8th grade, shoulders, high school. I'm done with it.
All right. Quick example on football. What happened? A person can just put it in. A person can put it in. If the game is tied and somebody is scoring and they're driving you all the way down to the goal line, and you can't stop them from scoring, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. And they're at your 1 yard line, and you got less than a minute left. What do you do?
Hurry up and let them score so I can get the ball.
You let them score. You let them score. Why do you let them score? You let them score so you can do what? Get back on offense. So you can control the narrative. Barack Obama could not be stopped. They didn't even see him coming. Hillary didn't see him coming. They thought Hillary was going to win. But what happened? They said, we can't stop this. So what did they do? They said, we're going to let him score, and we're going to get on offense. And we're going to say the Tea Party is going to come up and say he's not a citizen. He's a Muslim. He's a racist. He's a Marxist. All these different things to put fear in American society. Yeah. That's what they were trying to do. That's where the fear comes up. And that is why everybody's voting for either Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders. Not because Barack Obama was a horrible president. The man was handcuffed the whole 8 years. But because they put fear in American society. Well, that's the same thing they do too. What does Willie Lynch letters tell us to do? Not trust each other, to fear one another. The smaller black man fear the other black man. The light-skinned woman feel dominant over the dark-skinned woman. The dark-skinned woman feel inferior over the light-skinned woman. That's why we have the good hair, light hair situation. The brown paper bag syndrome. All these different things are a result of the Willie Lynch letter. That exists today. Last thing, I got to get out of it because I'm talking too much. We got to understand the crab in the barrel syndrome. We don't understand it. it has not been taught to us correctly.
Hold on. You got someone who disagrees with you in the light skin business.
He's being general. He's not being specific. He's making a generalization, and that's for a group. So don't take it personally what he's saying. You might be the exception, but for the most part,
no. Look. They can take it how they want to take it. I'm telling you what's going on in society. This was in the wilderness.
Yeah, it's true.
Look, man. Look, I'm not here to make you feel what reality is. This is what we deal with every day. Now, look, if I hurt your feelings, I apologize. Kind of really don't. But I'm just saying, this is just what it is.
Kind of, sort of.
What's real is what's real. I mean, look, man, look. I mean, just walk out the front door. Come on, man.
Come on. Keep on going.
Look at mainstream. Look at mainstream television. Look at mainstream music. Come on, let's just be real. Come on, man. Let's not even go there. Okay, let me finish this real quick. The crab in the barrel, the crab in the barrel syndrome has been so falsely taught to us that we don't have a clue and understanding how we're really trying to coexist as Black people within the community. They tell us that the crab in the barrel syndrome is when I see Will coming up. I look at Will. I say, "No, you're not gonna go. You're not gonna come out. I'm gonna keep you from coming out." I see Dr. Vibe come up. I say, "No, Dr. Vibe, bro, you ain't coming out. I'm gonna keep you from coming out." Nah, Curtis, no, bro, not without me. No, that's the exact opposite. What is the one thing we've always done for each other in the community? Hooked each other up. Yo, man, hook a brother up. Hey, girl, hook me up. Hook me up with that with your such and such. Hook me up with your baby. Hey, man, hook me up, blah, 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 blah. We good at that if we don't do nothing. That's how we've learned. Look, we have not learned how to share, but we've learned how to hook each other up. Think about it. I don't know if it hit y'all. We've learned how to hook each other up. We haven't learned how to heal, but we've learned how to hook each other up. We haven't learned how to empower each other economically, socially, but we've learned how to hook each other up.
Yep.
So what do I mean by that? Well, when I see Will coming up and he sees a way out, I'm not trying to pull him down. Look at study the crabs. They're trying to get out too. They say, "Hey, Will, hook me up. You found a way out. Let me come out with you. I don't know what I'll do, but I'll do something." And then what happens then? Kurt sees me grab your leg, and Kurt like, "Hey, Skill, we cool. We boys. Hook me up. Help me out." So he grabs my leg. Dr. Vibe was like, "Yo, Kurt, come on, man. Why you didn't tell me y'all found a way out? Yo, man, hook a brother up." And all of a sudden, we're trying to carry 3 people and himself out. Why do you think athletes go broke? It ain't always because they buying cars, they buying furs. Yeah, they do that, and they make it rain. Let's keep it real. But they trying to help Mimi, Nene, Lily, JoJo, everybody come out the hood because they feel obligated. They feel like I have to. Look, that is why you have a kid in Pop Warner, 8 years old, and their mom is telling them, "You're our way out."
Yeah, absolutely.
The pressure started on them at 8 and 9 years old. It didn't start on them when they was 15, 16. It didn't start on them when they was in college. No, trust me, I coached this. I've been part of Pop Warner for 4 or 5 years. I've seen parents tell their 8 and 9 year old kid, "Baby, you're gonna get us out of the hood. You're gonna get us out of the gutter." Really? Are you kidding me? They're looking for a way out. Why? Because we have that sense of entitlement. We're waiting on the reparations. So you know what, Will? Until we get our reparations, you're gonna get to the NFL and you're gonna get us out the hood. And I'm gonna close on that because I got more, but I'm gonna do the rest for part 2.
Part 2. Will, sorry, I appreciate your patience. Will, what do you want to add on? Thank you for coming in because I know you do enough of your own blabs, so I'm really honored to have you come in and share. What do you want to jump in about?
Well, guys, thanks for having me. This is a great conversation. It really touches me. It resonates with me. I guess you can imagine why, my experience, my 43 years. But there's 2 things that I wanted to point out. And the first one is probably the bad news, I guess, bringing it to this. All these isms, all these classisms, racism, all of this stuff, I believe is based off a biological imperative. And this is why I say that. In the past, if you weren't part of a group, you were ostracized and you weren't able to pass on your genes, your DNA. And usually in genes and DNA, there's predispositions to have certain behaviors. And those who weren't able to get along with the group or go along with the group basically disappeared, right? So within that group, if you have a certain amount of resources and you're comfortable, there's no way that it's to be expected to be reasonable for you to want to give those up. So you would fight tooth and nail to maintain your position. As time goes by and people study how societies and small groups of communities behave and react to certain stimuluses or stimuli, these things can be documented. These things can be studied. Studies can be exacted upon particular groups of people. And as time continues to go by, that data becomes huge. And the efficiency of doing these studies, making sure that groups behave like they should, and ostracizing those or labeling those as terrorists who speak differently than a group, become more efficient. So I don't know if it will ever stop. And as a matter of fact, I think if we were all blind, we would find a reason to ostracize and try to belong to a group based on that biological imperative. That's just my opinion. The second thing is this reparations thing. I know some people say it's there's a strong correlation to the mindset of entitlement, right? Okay, and they're stringing us along with like as a carrot or something, right? Well, why is it that every other race has received reparations and we haven't? I mean, these people who have received reparations have produced materials, goods, technology that outweigh and go far beyond any reparations that they've been paid, right? I don't necessarily feel that it stimulates, an entitlement mindset. I think that for some reason we are told, oh, that's in the past, it's not important, move on. Okay, well, why didn't you do that with all the other races? There's something going on here that first of all makes us think that it's wrong to receive the same treatment that other races have received, right? There's something that makes us feel ashamed for asking to be treated or seen as equal, especially financially, as all of these other races, right? Because if we are so great, right? If we've been so great in the past, why can't we also do great things after we've received these reparations as the other races have? That's all I have to say.
Now, let me first of all,
let Brown Boy Studios go and come back. Hold on.
Askia, that's exactly where I was coming from, where Will is coming from. And it doesn't, just because a person is waiting for, or not so much waiting for, but just because a person is expecting or would like to have reparations, does not mean that they're going to do something totally ridiculous with it or just put it back in a system, a broken system. It's an opportunity for us to educate people. Even now, educate people for whenever the reparations come, or if they ever come. Again, not about waiting on them, but there's an opportunity for us to do what's right with it. And perhaps even once people are educated, they still won't do what's right. But by chance, it'll be a few people who will do what's right, who are not necessarily waiting on reparations. They're not just, sitting in a rocking chair drinking iced tea on a porch and waiting for the check to come. But there are a group of people, a lot of blacks out there who will, once they do receive reparations, or whenever that happens, that we will do the right thing. So that's a perspective I'm coming from, is what Bill was saying.
Yeah, well, first of all, I never said what we do with it, what we wouldn't do with it. I don't, what you do with your reparation check, what you do with your reparation check is totally different what I do with my reparation check, right?
I think the rep check.
The rep check.
Well, no, I think
that's what we gonna call it, the rep check.
The consensus that we have to be validated, that we're waiting for them to validate us, and that those reparations will validate us. And I disagree with that.
I don't even think it'll validate us. I didn't even say that. I don't think.
I was speaking of what Tony said earlier.
Oh, what Tony said. Okay, I see what you said. No. Well, I want to add this though, and this is what I mean by entitlement. What did tell me what role did the United States play with the Holocaust? What role did we have in that?
Huge. We bombed.
Man.
Yeah.
There's citizens, United States citizens, who were funding both sides of that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I'm glad you said that, and a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think we just sitting here chilling while everything was going on over there, which is completely false.
Right.
Now, let me ask you another question. But who did we disenfranchise the most, as far as America? African Americans, or blacks, or the Jews that were suffering the Holocaust? Who did we do more damage to?
Us.
Perfect. I'm glad you said that. Do you know that the United States assisted in the reparation efforts for the Jews that suffered in the Holocaust? Research that. A lot of people don't know that.
I believe
it. Right.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but more of us died not making it over here than died in the Holocaust.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly. Now, but check this out. This is what I mean by entitlement. So what they did for us is they said, okay, we're gonna concede on some things. See, a lot of people think that Abraham Lincoln. See, the biggest misconception that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. No, he saved the Union.
Yeah, exactly.
His only purpose was to save
exactly.
Bring it
that was
together.
It. He had no look. I'm not saying the man wasn't humanitarian. I'm not saying he wasn't. Look, man, I don't know. But that was his goal was not to see and say, man, I'm just gonna free these slaves. I'm sick and tired of Joe getting beat up. Man, oh wow, man, that could look real rough right now, man. That's real jacked up, man. I don't understand why you doing that to Timbo, whatever his name is. That's wrong. We're gonna end slavery tomorrow. No, he's like, man, we about to lose. We gotta save the Union. The only way for us to do this is to free these slaves. Now, let me tell you where I'm headed with this. They came later down the road. A lot of people don't realize too when you talk about the Reconstruction period. There were a lot of blacks that were a part of the Reconstruction period, like influential blacks.
Yep.
Now, this is very important as well. When you look at affirmative action, and this is what I'm trying to get you to understand about reparations, what they tried to do is to use affirmative action as a way of saying, this is a part of reparation.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you.
And this is the problem I have with affirmative action. First of all, what people don't understand about affirmative action is affirmative action has always worked more as a quota. Even though they tried to tell you it was different, it always worked more. It was designed that way. Because this is what happened. They would say, okay, this is what we'll do then. If I have a law school and you're telling us I got to have a certain amount of blacks, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure if we admit 50 students every year in our law school, I'm just throwing a number up, I'll make sure that 5 of them are blacks. We're going to at least have 5 blacks, right?
Yep.
What if out of the 50 that applied, 20 of them that are the most qualified are black? You know what they do? They take the top 5 out of that 20 and they say, okay, we got them in. Now everybody else come on in. That's not affirmative action. That's a quota. And that's what it turned into. And the biggest issue about affirmative action is, look, I could go into Will's room right now, his office right now where he is. How long do you think it'd take me to tear that room apart? Like completely, just tear it apart. Put holes in the wall, set it on fire, just rip it to shreds to the point it's unrecognizable.
It's gonna take my cameras.
How long do you think it'll take?
Less than 30 minutes, you could do that.
How long do you think it's going to take to fix and repair it back?
Much longer.
Way much longer.
I see where you're going. See where you're going.
So you mean to tell us that for 200, 300 plus years, we've been enslaved? That you're going to give us 5 years, 10 years of quotas?
That could be like steak to a baby.
That's what I'm saying. Because and that's what I meant by I'm saying I'm giving you examples of how the Willie Lynch letter applied today. They're trying to make us feel entitled. That's why they try to make us feel guilty. Look at the narrative. That's why I mentioned the fourth estate, the press. They try to make us feel guilty. Think about what goes on now. Well, you have this now. You have that now. You have this now. I'm not sitting here saying we're leaning back doing nothing. I'm saying that's what they're programming us to feel like we're entitled. And so we shouldn't complain. We shouldn't ask for anything. We shouldn't sit here and demand. No, that's where they're putting us into. And that's the biggest problem that exists today. we don't even feel like we have a voice. We don't even feel like we deserve anything or we're owed anything. Look, man, buck 4 niggas in a mule. Give me a Lexus and a condo. I'm good. I call it even. I'm just 100%. I mean, a nice condo now, paid for now, you know. But give me that GS 450. I'm strong, V8 and a condo, and I'll make it work. I'll really make it work. But all I'm saying is they want you to feel entitled. They want you to feel like you should be guilty, though. Feel guilty. That's what the narrative is now. Well, look at what you have. Look at what you're able to do. I had a conversation with this guy the other day, man. This was the crazy conversation I had the other day. And he was talking about, well, when you agree that slavery is over, I said, well, then now you're under the assumption that we're not under political, economic, and social slavery. You mean to tell me that doesn't exist? Slavery don't mean you're just bound in chains. That's not slavery. Slavery goes well beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goes well beyond that. But now what happens is, and this is what Willie Lynch letters does, slavery has now been in our mind. That's why they say there's a difference between being broke and being poor. We have a impoverished mentality. And the slavery exists here now, dude. That's what all I'm saying. The slavery doesn't exist outside of us anymore.
Right, absolutely. The change is gone. Yeah.
That's what we have to break out of. And that's why I said that's what the Willie Lynch letter is about. It's not about social, political, economic slavery outside the walls, man. It's about what they have instilled in us, how they reprogrammed us to feel like we're undeserving. We shouldn't ask for anything. We shouldn't get anything. The slavery's been in here. Why do you think we get in debt so much? Think about it. Stu, look. I said I was going to end. I'm in after this. Look at black on black crime. I'll give you a quick example. Do you know that through American society, since the beginning of time, we have glamorized the use of guns and our ability to be able to use guns to take over the Native Americans that was here, not bothering anybody, or we were able to conquer them. Why? Because we had guns. Think about it. Look, man, you were in law enforcement. You were in law enforcement, Will. You know that the most technological advancements in our history has been doing what? War or the threat of war.
Yeah.
Yep.
War or the threat of war. We've glamorized guns from the beginning of time. What do we have more access to? Think about it. Do we have easier access to education or guns?
Guns.
Thank you.
Guns.
Thank you. You have to look at what we have access to. That is a part of the reprogramming. And that is what but it's a slave, because then what we do, we take that reprogramming, you say, okay, we got a gun, and now that means we can rob and we can get what we deserve. That's what I meant by entitlement. We take what's been glamorized by this institution and we use that to get what we feel like we deserve. I had a homeboy when I was in college. Somebody stole his Honda thing off his front car of his Honda, just plucked it off his little deep. He just went on another car and took it off because he felt like somebody took mine. I'm like, dude, really? Really, man? Is this what you're going to do? Really?
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead, man.
You mentioned something about, let's go back to the gun thing. And this is what I'm curious about. Why is it that we're more likely to use that gun upon each other to get things or exact revenge versus other races? We
got to check the stats. Let me show you an interesting stat and pull this up. Now, it is higher, but let me show you how much higher it's not. I don't know the exact number, so I'm gonna round it, but I'm really close. You can look it up. Black on black crime. Blacks dying at the hands of other blacks is like 93% of blacks that die at the hands of other blacks is like 93%, something like that, low 90s. Whites dying at the hands of other whites is like mid 80s. That's not that much difference. That's not that, and I'll go this far, considering the disparity, particularly with upward mobility issues that we deal with as a culture, as a society. Think about that. Think about that number should be way higher. It should be like 97. They should be at like 30 or 40.
Askia, someone is saying, where do you get your stats and information? Kenneth asked.
I read, man. Research, Google it, man. Just Google it. I promise you'll find it. But I read, though. I ain't gonna lie, man. Let me tell you what I'm reading now. Hold on, let me show you. Hold on, let me show you. This is a good book. Y'all like this? Come on, book it.
Hey, guys, I'm going to hop off here and let somebody else come in.
Y'all see this right here?
There you go. Okay, take care, Will. Thanks for stopping by.
We got to educate ourselves, man. This is what I'm reading right now. Okay. Y'all get this book. Learn something. It's real. It's real.
This dude sounds like a troll, man.
Hello?
What's going on?
Yeah, he is.
Done.
Yeah. But now I let somebody else talk. That's why I was trying not to come in, Dr. Vine. You know how I get, man.
No.
Good stuff, Askia, man. Absolutely, brother. Appreciate you.
Man. That's okay. Absolutely. No problem, man.
I didn't hear that white.
I want you to stay on Askia because Kenneth is on here. Kenneth, welcome.
Hey, what's happening, man?
What's going on?
Everything.
He asked why was he kicked. I don't know. I guess because you were asking like silly questions or something. Yeah, but you know what? I like the I mean, I understand the the dialogue here and everything, but my biggest thing on all these stats and this and that and whatnot, it's like I see things that are going on in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like this whole Willie Lynch thing. It's basically, to me, the way things worked out are like when we had something positive going on, and I'm gonna use hip hop for a minute. You know what I mean? Like we had the positive thing going on with all the positive hip hop and stop the violence back in the 80s and the 90s. And then they throw NWA in the mix and everything gets to be gangster and this and that. You know what I mean? It seems like the more ignorant you are in society, not society, but especially in hip hop, the more ignorant you are, the more your shit sells. And it makes it's like that's something we created. Hip hop's been around even during the times of slavery. You know what I mean? With the call and response and all this kind of stuff. It's something that we as a colored people created. And then they jump in. And when I say they, I'm talking about the non-blacks. And they corrupted it and turned it into this big commercial thing. And then it drives a lot of other things too, like this whole gangster mentality that these young kids have in the inner city. I'm like, they think that the more ignorant you are, the more accepted you are. But in their small little tiny world, that's how they think. But the world's such a big place that little ignorant shit don't really matter on the outside. You know what I mean? But how do you get that message across these little inner city kids? And I don't care what color they are, that have this ghetto mentality, whose parents don't give a shit, whose their parents didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? We got 4th or 5th generation people growing up on social programs, on welfare. You know what I mean? And they just don't give a shit about themselves. I think the issue that I think is that you got to start showing people how to care about themselves, and then they can move forward. You know what I mean? But I just wanted to say that, and I'm gonna jump up out the seat, man. Peace.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, I like what Kenneth said. I think it's important, and he said some really good things. I think it's important when we understand hip hop culture and its influence in African Americans, particularly in society and culture. If you understand hip hop, and I think Kenneth nailed it, hip hop came from the term meaning aware. Hip means to be aware, to be enlightened. That's what hip hop meant back in the day, to be aware. It was about a sense of consciousness. It was about the Furious Five and Sugar Hill Gang. They was talking about the streets and the struggle. Well, what we have to be careful is that NWA was doing the same thing. Public Enemy was doing the same thing. Right. But they lost control of the narrative because they came across as being angry black men, which they were. But you got to understand what they were dealing with. Look, we all respond to things differently based on how we grew up. How I may respond to police brutality is different than how Jonathan may respond to, or how Curtis may respond to, or Dr. Biden is going to be depending on a lot of different verticals, depending on how often I've had to deal with it, how I grew up with it, how comfortable I am as far as how much I've seen it within my community, or how I've been raised to handle it, to run or to stand up. So we all deal with things differently, and we got to understand that there's a huge even culture divide. That goes back to what we were saying earlier. There is a classism. Look, we don't always move in concert when everything happens to us the exact same way. we respond differently. And the way the NWA respond to it may not have been the way maybe Public Enemy would have responded to it. But at the end of the day, that is what they knew. And they lost control of their narrative. And that's why I brought up the fourth estate. We did not have control of the narrative. So what they said came across as the exact opposite of what they was trying to come across. They weren't trying to sit here and promote hate amongst police. They were trying to say, look, this is what's going on in our community.
Right.
But different, man. When what was going on in hip hop in the 80s and 90s, they were saying the exact same thing, but they said it a different way. And but when you don't have control of the narrative, and that's what's important, we do not have control of our narrative. And I don't know if people even understand what I mean by that. It is so important that we control our narrative.
But here's the issue with that: when we don't have control when we try to control narrative, oftentimes there's always disagreement within the Black community. I'm a member of our local radio station, local Black talk radio station, and sometimes you hear them talk about issues in our community that people agree with, and then they talk about issues within the Black community that they don't agree with. So it's like, well, I'm not supporting that station because they didn't say what I wanted them to hear. I'll give you an example. One of the stations, actually the program director, is very progressive. So she's for LGBT rights, transgender rights, all that. The audience itself is not. So when she tries to talk about that, it's like, oh, well, why would you talk about that? It's those people, that's them. So within the Black community, we can't control our narrative because we can never agree to disagree. And sometimes they talk about things that I don't agree with, but guess what? I'm still going to support them. So you got that other issue that, once again, with the Willie Lynch syndrome talks about as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like right here, we have people that have different opinions that are African American. Some people believe talk about reparations. Some people believe that we need reparations and we need it now. Some people think that we need it when we're psychologically able to handle it. There are some people who say, guess what? It's never going to happen. Let's get used to it. So if we could just work together and say, okay, regardless how you feel, let's still work together. That's why we don't have control over our narrative.
That is true. We feel like because I don't agree with Jonathan, something's wrong with Jonathan. Therefore, now I gotta leave Jonathan over here. He's lost. He's blind. So I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna meet with Curtis, and because Curtis sees. No, you're right. Curtis sees the way I see it. No, you're exactly correct. You're exactly correct.
As kids, it goes back to what you were saying. We end up. I think you were saying, or someone said, since we've been on a Blab, but we end up isolating each other within our own community.
Yeah, somebody else said that. Yeah.
I mean, just what you were just saying. So if someone doesn't care about Jonathan's idea, now they're going to go with Askia, and Askia may say something about Jonathan because now Askia needs a company. He needs a body to help his vision or idea come to pass.
Right, and that speaks to that division again. You don't think the way I think. You don't see the way I see. What's wrong with you? But no, it's okay. Look, whether you agree or not. What we gotta we can't get caught up in semantics, right? We gotta look at that. We're both dealing with the exact same issue. We're both dealing with the same injustice. So if we focus on the injustice instead of how we identify how the injustice affect us individually, then we can sit down and communicate because now we're focused on the thing that matters the most. And but what we have a tendency to do is focus on the thing that matters the least.
Right.
Personal. And we make everything too personal.
I think for all of us, just across the board, I think we're just really at a place where it's time to heal. It's just time to heal and then rebuild. It's time to get some stuff together and make some things happen. It really is, man. It really is. And I think that's the pressure. A lot of us as Blacks are feeling so much pressure because it's either the pressure's coming for two reasons. It's either when the pressure comes, it's going to do two things. It's either going to make you run or make you do something about
it. This is how I've always identified with pressure, man. And I think everybody should hear this. It's two ways to deal with pressure. Either you're going to apply it or you're going to feel it. Right. I choose to apply it.
Absolutely.
I choose to apply pressure.
Absolutely.
Brown Boy Studios, can I ask a favor? Can I have you jump off for a sec?
Sure, no problem, man. Thanks.
Yeah, I can step out, man.
No. You stay on. It's your show tonight. I got to change the title of the show. By the way, Askia, I hope you see I changed the title of the recording.
Show part 1. Man, there go my man right there, Tony. What's up, man?
Tony?
Dr. Vibe, I'm going to be honest with you. Dr. Vibe, I think you recruited a lot of people from Twitter by this show, honestly. We have a lot of new people who probably never been on Blab before because of this show alone. So kudos to you for that.
Well, you know what? First of all, it's not me. It's
yeah. We know. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. And Finn also too. You're part of everyone that's here makes the show better. Tony?
Okay. We have had tremendous amount of positive content. Whether or not you agree with everything that's been said, there has been value in what has been shared. And what I hope is that we take a lot of what has been said and answer the question that is part of the title of the Blab. And it's the part that we didn't put down. So when you look at it and you see Willie Lynch is alive and well, and so the next part should be, now what?
That's part 2.
So now what? So I wanted to come in and make sure that we don't leave it just as Willie Lynch being alive and well, because Willie Lynch is alive and well. But I think that we have to begin to wrestle with the now and what, because it is clear based on everything that's been shared. Again, whether you agree with everything that's been said or not, that he is alive and well. And as Kia has said, it's here. And when it's here, it's so different than when it's a physical pain or the physical chains, because you can escape the chains, but when it's here, there's no place to run.
Yep.
There's no escaping it. So, I hope, because if it doesn't do anything more than us having this conversation, if nothing else comes out of this, then it's fruitless.
Yeah.
So, I just hope that we begin to think, okay, so now how do we make the difference? Now, I know that we can't solve that tonight, but I hope that we will think about it. And then maybe in part 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6.
This is going to be Tony, this is going to be an ongoing conversation. I don't see any number that it's going to end at. This has to be an ongoing conversation with more and more people involved in this conversation, because everyone, whether they agree or disagree, will contribute to the correct solution for an ongoing thing, because every success has to have a successor.
Right.
Each one of us that is sitting here, we have someone that we're going to be handing over whatever we have created to. And that's whether you have a child or not, you're going to hand it over to somebody, whether it's a child, whether it's the government.
Yeah.
We're going to hand it over to somebody. Hopefully it's someone that cares about you as much as you care about them. So this is going to be an ongoing discussion. It's not going to be a 1 and done or 2 and done or 4 and done. Periodically, I'm going to put this topic up, because once we leave tonight, new things are going to happen. New ideas are going to come. And we always have to, there's an old song called Keep the Fire Burning. Can't remember who sung it right now, but I'll remember. I think it was Kenny Loggins, but that's a whole other story. But we have to keep this fire burning, because like you said, Tony, where the mind goes, the person follows. I typed that in. Very important. So don't think this is a one and done. Believe me, it was something that wasn't even a thought 2 or 3 hours ago, and look what's happened. And look at all the people, many people who have stayed on for the last few hours, and each one of them knows at least one other person that needs to know about it. And I'm sure they will tell about it, whether it's through I saw this or by their actions. They're going to notice a change. There's a shift. And it all starts with one. Because last I checked, when something good's going on, most people want to be part of it. Even if they don't know about it, they want to be part of it. So I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, and I like to close on this, man. Because I'm all about solutions, and I think it's been a great conversation, man. And it would behoove us, man, to get out of here without at least giving us some homework, right? So I feel like what I would challenge people to do is to really study, and trust me, I really feel like you'll get a lot of value out of this. Study the 5 estates is very important. But when you study the 5 estates, study how those 5 estates exist within the African American community, and how we respond collectively with those 5 estates. And remember that 5th estate are us. We're that 5th estate. We're not the 3rd estate. We're acting sometimes like the 3rd estate, but we're the 5th estate. And our job is to be media influencers, to hold the 4th estate, which are the people that's controlling our narrative, to hold them accountable. And how do we do that? Well, Dr. Vibe is a part of the 5th estate. What this Blab is doing is holding the media accountable by saying, this is what you're putting out, but this is how we're counteracting to what you're putting out. We're going to create conversations. We're going to create platforms. We're going to create things that's going to counteract the narrative that's being taught out there about ourselves that we're buying into every single day. And we got to destroy those myths, and we got to start creating our own conversation. And so I think that's very, very, very important. Somebody asked me, have you watched the documentary Hidden Rules of Racism 3? If not, I'm encouraging you to. What you are speaking and the content reminds me of that documentary. No, I haven't, but I will. Is it called the?
It's called the Hidden
Rules of Race. I'm going to copy that and paste it now. No, I haven't, but I will. Thank you.
But she also mentioned, have you seen the Hidden Colors? I haven't seen it yet. I've seen the person who did it. Yes, Hidden Colors. That's what it's called. Have you seen Hidden Colors by
I'm writing both of them.
Also, actually, I'm trying to get on the program, and I'm just trying to bring it up here.
Colors.
Black Friday. There's a new documentary called.
I am subscribed to Quelly TV. Matter of fact, people support Quelly TV.
I know. I have been approached to provide content for Quelly. If anyone needs to know about Quelly, I know the lady who's the news director, and they are looking for people to contribute content, and you do get paid if you do it on a regular basis. So if anyone wants to know about Quelly TV, I know the lady who's the news director. She's been after me to provide content. I got so many things going on, but she's on after me on a weekly basis to provide content for the for Quelly TV. So if anyone wants to know about, if anyone has an interest in providing content for a Black media entity, okay, Mohammed, when your email, touch base with me. Too many shows, Dr. Vibe. I know. I'm Ava Laura. Shush.
Yeah.
Don't give Ava Laura more reason to shake her crown head. Don't do that. See, Will, you came back on. What's up?
So I like where how you say your name? Aska Jones.
Yeah.
Man, just call me AJ, man.
Okay.
No,
AJ.
call him Rico.
Call me Rico.
But I like where you went with it, and that's exactly what I was thinking was less of holding the media accountable and more to becoming the media, because we have to speak with our own voice. No one else is going to do it for us, and I think what has just unfolded is a representation of that with this Quelly TV. I definitely wrote that down. Because I went to school for media, and that's where I see the same thing. The story is the most important because that's what gets ingrained in our consciousness, right? And it gets repeated constantly. That's why I don't watch the news or whatever, because regardless of how conscious you are, if you continually watch it, it's going to get ingrained into your consciousness. The way that we see each other is, and so one of my classes was honors English class. It was a black school, so she taught us from Bell Hooks, and Bell Hooks is a film critic, a black film critic. Mm-hmm. And she really goes into how these stereotypes are continually being portrayed, and of course reproduced, or we're going to copy the people that we see on TV, and so it happens, in music and media, and we have to come back and say, okay, that's the way they're portraying us. How do we portray us? How do you want to see? And so before we even started this conversation, when I heard Dr. Vibe was going to put it, I was like, but
you keep on doing that.
I know.
It's okay. It's all right. We know what you meant. It's all right.
That was my idea. Was like, what is the solution? Where is the way? And the thought I had was about visionaries, right? And so let's see, what did I write here? Successful visionary leadership. So for how do visionaries become successful is because you create an inspired vision and then connect and motivate people to work towards that vision. If you think about, like, Martin Luther King, he had a dream, and different people, they have a vision and they connect people to that vision. And that vision is where this communication comes from. In other words, when you're talking on the media, there is a understanding to me of my people, and that's what is going to be communicated in the media that I produce, and that will be internalized by the people who watch it. Or when I'm speaking, I don't know, you haven't met me yet, AJ, but I have a clear idea of how we can be and how we are. To me, in my understanding, we are very extremely powerful people. We don't, in all these problems that we're talking about, to me, are small. They're all minuscule to us, and they're because we are one with source, and so I have a kind of like what I like to call a God mind, right? And so when you meditate or when you pray, you start to get into this God mind, and in the God mind, do you think he has are there any problems? Right? There are no problems. There's like, okay, what am I going to make? This is the way the world is. Let's make it another way. Right? How would you like the world to be? Martin Luther King said, I see the world where we're holding hands, where black and white children are holding hands, and we see each other for the content of our character, not the color of our skin. Right? And so I think Tony was talking about this. It's like, okay, what is the content of your character then? We want this world where people don't see the color of our skin. However, the content of our character, where is that at? What are you? How are you exemplifying what you want? I mean, how are you exemplifying who you are in the society to be worthy of what you say you're deserving? And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, because I feel like most of the people in here recognize who they are and recognize their value, but a lot of the people who need to hear this message, that to me, that's the number one thing, is to win the battle of their mind and have them recognize their true value. Because once you recognize your value, you're not going to let anybody talk to you any kind of way. You're not going to let anybody put these crazy programs into your mind. And that's why I just stopped watching TV. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and let you keep lying to me all day. I'm not going to sit here and let you talk down to me and make you think that, I'm just this mindless consumer that I have to follow whatever you guys are trying to tell me to do all the time, And so it's to me, it's identifying yourself and recognizing who and what you are, what your source of power is, and to take it away from the spiritual, you can bring it down to our ancestry, right? Look where we come from and what we've done and where we've come through. We have come through way worse, right? We were fighting not even against just mental, but physical, hardcore physical, oppression, right? And we have came to here. you know, and all those ancestors are still with us. They're still in our blood through our cellular DNA memory. They're still with us in spirit. And so their power, you know, to me, I think they're looking at it like, really, all they can talk about is what's wrong, and they just can't seem to find a way to communicate. And like you were saying, AJ, you know, we used to communicate through songs, through codes, right? And, you know, listen to the codes now, listen to the music now. What are these music? Because they still do the same thing, at least in my mind. When I listen to people in hip hop and some people say, oh, it's negative or whatever. If you really listen to what they're saying, they understand what they got to say to get the white man to pay them their money. But they're also still talking to all of us who are aware, who are conscious. So I think if we can, you know, focus.
I'm gonna let you shut down on that.
Okay.
On that, I'm gonna stop. All right. I'm gonna end off this epic conversation with the man who started it, and the man who started it is Tony. So Tony, give us some final words, and we'll close it down.
Well, the final words are, first, I want to thank you for doing this. Creating this forum for us to have this extended conversation that will, I think, be a part of many more conversations. I want to thank everybody who's made a contribution to this conversation, whether they were in the seats or just making comments. And I also want to say, I want to reach out to all of the people that are here from this standpoint. We have a lot of people here that have a lot of skills, a lot of talents, a lot of things. And what we're dealing with is a multi-pronged attack. Willie Lynch attack is a multi-pronged attack. And it's going to have to be solved and dealt with by a multi-pronged approach. And that's why we're going to need people who are experts in media, like Dr. Tashi, Dr. Vibe, to come together. We're going to need spiritualists like Ava Laura, and we're going to need the whole community to come together to really fight against what Willie Lynch stands for. And when we do that, then we can model the behavior that needs to take place so that we can make an impact and change and turn this thing around. So when people have something to model, then they can change behavior. But if they don't have anything to look at, something to point to say, okay, this is the way to change it. This is the way to fix it. And we certainly are not going to agree on everything, but we can learn to agree or disagree in a way in which that it can make a difference and we can change and turn this thing around. And I just really feel like we're on the horizon of making a significant change. So again, I want to thank everybody who's contributed to this conversation and the ongoing conversations that we will have. And I want everyone to stay close, and stay prayed up. Thank you, Dr. Vibe.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you. I'll keep it rather short because I think Tony just put a nice close on to it, especially thanks to everyone who came on the screen, whether you came in one of the squares, commented, or you just sat and watched. And again, I'm humbled that so many of you have stayed on for a long period of time because you know that this is important. And if you've been following the conversation, the original title was Willie Lynch is Alive and Well. And Askia, of course, gave me that thought process. It's part 1. So there are more conversations to come. So if you're following me on Blab, you'll see definitely within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to have a part 2. Part 3 is going to keep on going on. 2 quick things, or 2 or 3 quick things. If you want to follow me, my Twitter handle is there. If you have any suggestions on what you like to have discussed on the show, because I'm pretty open, you can touch base with me via Twitter. I'm going to put my email address right there. If you want to watch the replay, you can watch it on Blab, and I'll eventually put this one up onto my site too. Hey, Tony. And And I'm really humbled, and thank you so much for and he's not scared. There you go. Well, there's someone on here who watches my back, so I'm not going to say who that person is, but I'm going to end off this conversation with 3 C's that are going to make this. When is my next show? Well, this show, I don't know. I've got another show tomorrow night about manhood, but just follow me on Blab and you'll see it. Just go to my Blab page and you'll see it on a schedule. I firmly believe that there are 3 C's to attack the Willie Lynch syndrome. We have to have, and this is for blacks and whites who want to defeat this. It's not just blacks, but blacks and whites. We need communication that respects. We need commitment that protects. And we need commonality that connects. 3 C's.
Got to repeat that.
So it's all okay, no problem. So we need communication that respects, commitment that protects, and commonality that connects.
Very good.
I think Sandy got commitment and commonality that connects, the last one. Mm-hmm. So as always, as I say at the beginning and at the end of a conversation, because I don't do a show and I don't do interviews, I do conversations. That's why Askia comes on, because he knows I don't do interviews, I do conversations. I'd like to say that you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. I don't know if I'm going to chat anymore. I'm going to shut off the recording. Who knows what's going to happen to that? But, and remember, you're blessed and highly favored. You're a magnet for miracles, and you're a solution for someone's problem. God bless. Peace you well. Keep the faith, and let's make it happen. Good night.